I refused to loan my sister the money for her IVF after she told every relative I had a fake illness for years, so I was diagnosed with lupus when I was 24. It took almost 2 years to get there. Specialist appointments, blood panels that came back inconclusive. A lot of days where I couldn't lift my arms above my head and had no idea why yet. My sister Dana is 3 years older than me. We were close growing up. I genuinely thought she was one of the people who understood what I was dealing with. I found out what she'd actually been saying from my cousin Britt at our grandmother's 80th birthday dinner. She said it completely casually, like it was something we both already knew. She said, "I'm glad you're doing better. Dana always said you tended to exaggerate how bad things were." I asked her what she meant. She kind of froze and said, "She just said you liked the attention." We figured making a big deal out of it would only encourage the behavior. I asked her who we was. She said most of the family. I went home and sat with it for a week. Then I started making calls. My Aunt Renee said yeah, Dana had mentioned over the years that I'd always been a little dramatic. My mom's cousin Phyllis said, "We just didn't want to fuss over you and make it worse." Like my illness was a behavior they could accidentally reinforce. I thought about every family thing I'd missed during flares when not one person called to check in. The Christmas I spent alone in my apartment because I was too sick to travel and nobody offered to come to me. My grandfather's birthday dinner where I'd called 4 people asking for a ride because I couldn't drive that day, and every single one of them said they had other plans. I ended up in the hospital twice in the years after my diagnosis. Not one extended family member came or called either time. I called Dana that Saturday night. She answered like nothing was happening. I asked her point blank what she'd been telling people about my diagnosis. She went quiet for a second, then said, "I just didn't want them treating you like you were fragile. You hate that." I said, "You told them I was making it up." She said, "I said you tended to blow things out of proportion. That's different." I said it wasn't different at all. She said she was sure the family had formed their own opinions regardless. That was her answer. She was sure the family had formed their own opinions regardless. I told her I was done talking and hung up. We didn't speak for 8 months after that. She texted on my birthday and I replied with one word. Since then we've been in the same room at holidays and my mom's things, but we don't really talk. She knows I know and neither of us has said another word about it. So last month she called me out of nowhere on a Tuesday night, around 7 p.m. I almost let it go to voicemail. She said she and her husband Marcus had been trying to get pregnant for almost 3 years and had exhausted every other option and were moving forward with IVF. First round was around $18,000. Insurance wasn't covering most of it and they were short. She had this whole thing prepared. How long they'd wanted a family, how hard the last few years had been emotionally, how much this particular round meant to them. Her voice kept going unsteady while she talked. I let her finish. Then I said, "Dana, no." She said, "I know things haven't been great between us." I said, "No, I heard everything." The answer is still no. She said, "Can you just sleep on it? That's all I'm asking. Just one night." I said, "I've been thinking about it since you started talking." No. That's when she started crying, like actually crying. She said I was the only person she could think of who might be able to help. Marcus's family didn't have it and she was out of options. I said, "You spent years making sure our family believed I was inventing a chronic illness. Those were years when I actually needed people to show up, and they didn't because you'd already gotten there first. I was in the hospital twice and nobody came. Nobody called. I couldn't get a ride to my grandfather's birthday dinner." She said that was the past. I said, "It's the reason my aunt looks at me like I'm slightly ridiculous. It's the reason my grandfather thought I was too dramatic to pick up the phone for. So no, I really don't think it's the past." She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I'm sorry. I genuinely am." I should have said that a long time ago. Her voice was pretty wrecked by then. I said, "I believe you." And no. She hung up. My mom left a voicemail the next morning. She said Dana was devastated and she hoped I'd reconsider because family was family. I texted back that I needed some space. Dana hasn't called since.